Brought to you by Charity Mobile. Switch to the phone company that supports your beliefs. All plans start under $50 before taxes and surcharges. Use promo code TRADITION at CharityMobile.com for a special offer. We turn our attention now to our ongoing series on Pope Pius XII's encyclical Mediator Dei. Here, the Pope goes into an examination of the holy sacrifice of the Mass. And he begins by addressing objections Protestants have to the Mass, that the priest offers the sacrifice alone oftentimes. He rejects their claims on this, repeating what previous councils have said. And then he goes into the needs of the laity. Let me know what you think of this, and I'm going to ask you to think if you could picture something like this being said in the modern day. Let me know in the comments. But however much variety and disparity there may be in the exterior manner and circumstances in which the Christian laity participate in the Mass and other liturgical functions, constant and earnest effort must be made to unite the congregation in spirit as much as possible with the divine Redeemer, so that their lives may be daily enriched with more abundant sanctity and greater glory be given to the Heaven Father. The august sacrifice of the altar is concluded with communion or the partaking of the divine feast. But as all know, the integrity of the sacrifice only requires that the priest partake of the heavenly food. Although it is most desirable that the people should also approach the holy table, this is not required for the integrity of the sacrifice. We wish in this matter to repeat the remarks in which our predecessor, Benedict XIV, makes with regard to the definitions of the Council of Trent. Quote, "First, we must state that none of the faithful can hold that private masses, in which the priest alone receives Holy Communion, are therefore unlawful and do not fulfill the idea of the true, perfect, and complete, unbloody sacrifice instituted by Christ our Lord. For the faithful know quite well, or at least can easily be taught, that the Council of Trent, supported by the doctrine which the uninterrupted tradition of the Church has preserved, condemned the new and false opinion of Luther, as opposed to this tradition. If anyone shall say that masses in which the priest only receives communion are unlawful, and therefore should be abolished, let him be anathema. They therefore err from the path of truth who do not want to have masses celebrated, unless the faithful communicate, and those are still more in error, who, in holding that it is altogether necessary for the faithful to receive Holy Communion, as well as the priest, put forward the captious argument, here there is a question not of sacrifice merely, but of sacrifice and a supper of brotherly union, and consider the general communion of all present as the culminating point of the whole celebration. Now, it cannot be overemphasized that the Eucharistic sacrifice of its very nature is the unbloody immolation of the divine victim, which is made manifest in a mystical manner by the separation of the sacred species and by their oblation to the Eternal Father. Holy Communion pertains to the integrity of the Mass and to the partaking of the august sacrament, but while it is obligatory for the priest who says the Mass, it is only something earnestly recommended to the faithful. The Church, as the teacher of truth, strives by every means in her power to safeguard the integrity of the Catholic faith, and like a mother solicitous for the welfare of her children, she exhorts them most earnestly to partake fervently and frequently of the richest treasure of our religion. Surely she wishes in the first place that Christians, especially when they cannot easily receive Holy Communion, should do so at least by desire, so that with renewed faith, reverence, humility, and complete trust in the goodness of the divine Redeemer, they may be united to him in the spirit of the most ardent charity. But the desire of Mother Church does not stop here. For since by feasting upon the bread of angels we can be a, quote, sacramental communion, as we have already said, also become partakers of the sacrifice, she repeats the invitation to all her children individually. Take and eat. Do this in memory of me. So that, quote, we may continually experience within us the fruit of our redemption in a more efficacious manner. For this reason, the Council of Trent, re-echoing, as it were, the invitation of Christ and his Immaculate Spouse, has earnestly exhorted, quote, the faithful, when they attend Mass, to communicate not only by a spiritual communion, but also by a sacramental one, so that they may obtain more abundant fruit from this holy sacrifice. Moreover, our predecessor of immortal memory, Benedict XIV, Wishing to emphasize and throw fuller light upon the truth that the faithful, by receiving the Holy Eucharist, become partakers of the divine sacrifice itself, praises the devotion of those who, when attending Mass, not only elicit a desire to receive Holy Communion, but also want to be nourished by hosts consecrated during the Mass, even though, as he himself states, they really and truly take part in the sacrifice should they receive a host which has been duly consecrated at a previous Mass. He writes as follows, quote, "And although, in addition to those whom the celebrant gives a portion of the victim he himself has offered in the Mass, they also participate in the same sacrifice, to whom a priest distributes the Blessed Sacrament that has been reserved. However, the Church has not for this reason ever forbidden, nor does she now forbid, a celebrant to satisfy the piety and just request of those who, when present at Mass, want to become partakers of the same sacrifice, because they likewise offer it after their own manner. Nay, more, she approves of it and desires that it should not be omitted, and would reprehend those priests through whose fault and negligence this participation would be denied to the faithful. May God grant that all accept these invitations of the Church freely and with spontaneity. May He grant that they participate every day, if possible, in the divine sacrifice, not only in a spiritual manner, but also by reception of the august sacrament, receive the body of Jesus Christ, which has been offered for all to the Eternal Father. Arouse, venerable brethren, in the hearts of those committed to your care, a great and insatiable hunger for Jesus Christ. Under your guidance, let the children and youth crowd to the altar rails to offer themselves, their innocence and their works of zeal to the divine Redeemer. Let husbands and wives approach the holy table, so that, nourished on this food, they may learn to make the children entrusted to them conform to the mind and heart of Jesus Christ. Let the workers be invited to partake of this sustaining and never-failing nourishment, that it may renew their strength and obtain for their labors an everlasting recompense in heaven. In a word, invite all men of whatever class and compel them to come in, since this is the bread of life which all require. The Church of Jesus Christ needs no other bread than this to satisfy fully our souls' wants and desires, and to unite us in the most intimate union with Jesus Christ, to make us one body, to get us to live together as brothers, who, breaking the same bread, sit down to the same heavenly table, to partake of the elixir of immortality." And that is Pope Pius X, an excerpt from his encyclical Mediator Dei, rejecting some of the common objections to the holy sacrifice of the Mass. Have you heard yourself some Catholics say that the priest should not offer the sacrifice alone, that it's not valid if he doesn't offer it with at least a layperson in attendance? Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Let me know if the other objections that he rejects here you have heard. But in general, what do you think of this encyclical, and would you expect to hear something like this from the Church today? I'm curious what you think, so again, let me know in the comments, please. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. Sharing this on social media helps a lot too. And as always, pray for the Church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.